Hi, my name is Sammy, and I am presenting on pregnant female athletes and how the media frames and covers them. When talking about framing, it's important to know that the media plays an important role in framing women's sport, and how the media covers female athletes has an impact on the way the public views them. The purpose of my research specifically is to examine how female athletes are framed in the media regarding both their pregnancy and their motherhood. For my project, for the School of Journalism and Communication in their honors program, I conducted a limited case study analyzing a sample of 4 female athletes through close readings of news stories and feature articles online. These 4 athletes I examined were Serena Williams, Candace Parker, Fawcett, and Alysia Montaño. These athletes were chosen because of their high profile, and they are very successful athletes who became pregnant during the peak of their athletic careers. All these athletes also returned to their sport post-pregnancy as well. For each of these athletes, I also looked at a 3-year time span, which included the year before their pregnancy, the year during their pregnancy, and the year after their pregnancy, to encompass a part of their motherhood and their return to the sport as well. Regarding the outlets I chose 2 main media outlets, 3 sports outlets, and specialty sports outlets for each corresponding athlete and their sport. These were also chosen because of their prominence and the high production of content. Before heading straight into my close readings, I conducted a test case with an Olympic track athlete named Kari Goucher. Kara had her first child in September of 2010, and then she returned to her marathon at the 2011 Boston Marathon. 7 months after having her first child, she also finished 5th and set a new PR. For this test case, I analyzed each article and I read over it twice to look for the overall frame of the print piece, how the athlete was mentioned in the text, and the types of frames that were used. I then, at the same time, took notes on each one, pointing out the frames that were used and how the athlete was framed in the location of the text. In regards to my research questions, I aim to answer what the common themes / frames in the media are when referring to pregnant female athletes. Regarding race, how are pregnant Black female athletes framed other than white female athletes? And are there differences in how team athletes versus individual athletes are framed? My findings indicated that there are 4 common frames across the platforms, which included the trailblazer, which is more of an example type athlete, kind of feminist woman as a leader, where the athlete would be an example for other athletes in the future to follow. There was also the competitive athlete frame, where the pregnancy was kind of seen as an obstacle for the athlete to overcome, more of an injury that the athlete will overcome and will fight hard to overcome. There was also the reality frame, which focused more on the pregnancy experience for the female athlete as well. And finally, the superwoman go-go girl frame, who they were framed as a woman who can do it all, a woman who could raise their child and return to the sport and do everything that they do in a go-go girl type superhuman way. In regards to race, I found that the articles used a reality frame when regarding to pregnant female athletes and women of color. A lot of the stories included complications and injuries post-pregnancy, because a lot of Black women are more likely to have pregnancy-related complications. In regards to team versus individual, team athletes are depended on more, and they're more framed as the letting down type frame. They weren't able to carry the team on their shoulders anymore. For future directions, there is still a fight for sex equality in sports, and the media should continue to fight for pregnant female athletes and their representation. There could be a possibility to look at a larger span of time, which would provide a broader perspective and possibly more frames. Also, I only looked at heterosexual athletes who had male partners, so looking at female athletes who also had female partners would be interesting to see if there were more frames there as well. But yeah, there's a history of a lack of coverage of female athletes, and it's important to focus on more representation and focus on the language being used so we can further improve how pregnant female athletes are framed in the media.